Conor, great to see you as always. You definitely have a place in my heart for one of the players that I've worked with over the years. I guess I've seen you grow, like I've seen a lot of players grow. But I think the time that we met, which was 5, 6 years ago, five,
Yeah, probably 2015, I think, maybe.
yeah, 5 years ago, and I'll never forget because we met at the airport. Remember Manchester Airport?
Yeah. Remember it like it was yesterday.
Like yesterday. I think what was different from a lot of players and athletes that I've worked with is that your agent at the time, Greg,
Mm.
he said nothing wrong with him,
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with him. He's just really curious about this side.
Yeah.
Tell us what you remember about our first meeting.
Yeah, listen, I'd moved from Plymouth to Barnsley at the time, so I was jumping up a League Two to League One. Really interested and keen to kind of maximise that opportunity in every way, shape or form. Me being me, hugely ambitious, hugely determined to make this move work to get me to the next level, because I was never going to be satisfied just with that League One level. So me and Greg at the time had a conversation, and I'd never touched on the mental side of the game, never been introduced to this, never kind of knew it was there, but never really, dug into that side of the game. So Greg knew yourself. We met at the airport. Didn't know what to expect at all. Obviously, Greg said, "Come along, meet this gentleman called Jamie. Let's see if he can help you along with that side of the game, make you improve mentally." And things went from strength to strength, really. It was an interesting meeting, and it was something I was really, really interested in after the meeting that we had.
Had you just left Plymouth, or had you had a year at Barnsley at the time?
No. So that was a summer I had signed for Barnsley. So I hadn't kicked the ball yet for Barnsley, I think, or might have been in the pre-season maybe. But the league didn't start at the time. And I think when I tell, if I recall right, I'm me being close to my mom and dad and my family, I'm going to meet the psychologist. And I go, "Oh, are you struggling?" And I go, "No." What? Because everyone thinks that, don't they? Everyone thinks psychologists, you must struggle. I say on interviews now, a big part of my journey's been my mental side of my game, the toughness that I've learned to grow and adapt from that side. And everyone goes, "Oh, did you have some tough years?" No, not at all.
You're making
Yes,
me
I've
laugh
had some.
because
That's what it is.
yeah.
Yes, I've had some tough years and tough challenges that I've had to overcome, but luckily enough for me, it's been from strength to strength challenges, not
But that's
away from football.
That's why you were a very unique case in terms of somebody who was coming. And I often, when I talk to young players, and I always mention you, I say you were not coming with that dip. When people say there's something wrong, you were coming with, yes, I've heard about this guy. He's done some good work with some people, but this can help me. And I'm in that transition phase. I'm here and I want to be there. What can I do to get there?
And so, some people really like this side of the game. Some people aren't so keen on it. And I really remember, listen, we've had many, many conversations. I really remember one of the first things you said to me, not first, but it was definitely within the first couple of conversations. Every single day, people are obsessed with working from the neck down, gym, technique, upper bodies, lower bodies, fast feet.
Mm-hmm.
But what about from the neck up? That makes it all in sync. Where that piece of chain isn't going to make your body go as you want it if the upstairs isn't right. So that's always stuck with me, and that's always kind of made me very interested. And that's what I've said to a lot of players that ask me about the interviews I do and psychologists, and I say it's brought me from strength to strength. It hasn't got me out of a hole. It's made my good times even stronger. So it's been huge for me, really.
Not many people have that opportunity, and so let's go back to coming from Ireland. So you you're from the Emerald Isle. I'm looking at a great picture, of you in your national team. I'm
Yeah.
not going to show you yet because that's going to be a topic for us. But you're from Ireland and you came over. Where was your first? Where did you land in England?
Yeah, so Sunderland, first destination. Had been back and forth many times to England on trials and all the rest of it, but signed for Sunderland. And it was only a few weeks ago, actually. You go through pictures in this lockdown and you kind of reminisce, and you look back on your phone. You have a bit more time maybe to think back on things. And I've actually come across the first picture. Mum and Dad brought me over to my digs, and they actually dropped me literally at the front door. They took me the whole way to the front door, and we had a picture for kind of old time's sake. And them kind of saying, "Go on, son, go on your journey," kind of thing. And came across the picture a few weeks ago, and it was really amazing to see. And that's 13 years ago now. But yeah, landed at Sunderland into a digs and chucked in at the deep end. But yeah, it's been an amazing journey, really.
I mean, you go into digs. Miss home? Did you miss home? I know you've got a very tight knit family.
Yeah, I did miss home, of course. Me being hugely home orientated, a really close family back in Ireland. Of course, I did. There was actually a lad called Niall McCardle. You wouldn't know him. He didn't become a footballer in the end. Was a teammate of mine on my youth team, and he was from Dublin. So having someone from Dublin and Ireland in my house and in my digs definitely helped me, made me settle. Made it a little bit easier. Obviously, listen, Sunderland was a fantastic club for me at the time. There was a lot of Irish players around. The manager was Roy Keane. Niall Quinn was upstairs on the board. You had people like Andy Reid there, Graham Kavanagh, Liam Miller, God rest him, Darryl Murphy. A lot of Irish players in and around the club at the time. So it definitely made me settle that a little bit easier.
Have you found, when you've gone on to other places, that you've reflected on your time at Sunderland? Because that was, what was it about that time that started that toughness about your mentality? And
there's probably two people at Sunderland that really kind of made me learn my trade, made me learn my standards, my the kind of the pride of my standards, how I go about my business every single day. One was the youth team manager, Kevin Ball, who I still speak to now. Fantastic man, hard as nails. Absolutely nailed it into you every single day. Standards. Be the best you can be every single day.
Mm-hmm.
I remember having to clean first team boots, having to do jobs in around the training ground, and if balls weren't spotless, if the gym wasn't spotless, any little bit of dust around the place, he'd call you and you have to come back in. You think, bloody hell, give me a break, But he was really nailing into your standards. So he was a huge influence on me. At the time, I thought, God, he's too much. But as I grew older, into my young 20s, probably I thought, what a foundation that was for me. What a learning curve that was for me. And the second person probably was Jordan Henderson. He was in my youth team at the time. He was a year older than me. And we shared a car school. And I was just after coming over from Ireland, and he was a second year scholar. I was a first year scholar. And he obviously went from strength to strength. But I saw daily his dedication to the game, his sacrifices to the game, his hunger for the game, his mentality for the game, his standards. And that probably brushed off on me as time went on. Probably not as early as I would have liked to have it brushed off on me. I was enjoying being in England, having that freedom, being in a car school with Jordan, who was breaking into the first team. But as time went on, it definitely brushed off on me more and more and more.
Yep. It's interesting you say that, because I've just been talking about that in terms of my own son, and he plays basketball, and I've got a picture here of you with the
with the man himself.
with the man himself, and with a message on there from, I think you sent that in 2018, September 2018. we talked about access.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah,
And that some people have access to information, some don't. Some are in a
yeah,
certain environment, and it sounds like what you're saying is that obviously you didn't know what Jordan was going to become, but just being around him has brushed
yeah.
you. You go on. You say it in your words.
No, I just knew he was giving himself the best opportunity to be the best he could be every single day. Whether I didn't know he was going to go win the Champions League and probably win the Premier League this year and probably win many more trophies. He's been through, probably without kind of going into it too much, a real tough time having to step into Gerrard's shoes, and he's done it, probably off with a lot of stick at the start, but his mental strength to come through that just speaks volume of the guy himself. So I just knew he was going to give himself the best opportunity to become a footballer. Whether that is Sunderland level, Premier League level, top level, England, whatever. It's definitely something that I've looked back on and thought them two guys were big influences on me.
Right. You've got a left peg that's like a wand. When did you start developing that? When was what was the mindset around my position or around your position?
Yeah, it was probably Ipswich. Probably. Listen, I was always a centre midfielder at Sunderland, but I was probably on the road to nowhere there. I was trying to search for a loan move or something just to gain some first team football, some first team experience. And it just didn't really come my way. I had a chance maybe to go on a couple of loans, but it never really quite happened for me. So it was a case of I had a year left at Sunderland, but I wasn't really getting loan moves. I was going to have to keep playing reserve team football. Could I really see an avenue into the first team? Probably not. So me being me, not scared to make a decision, decided to jump ship basically and create myself somewhere else. Probably being at Ipswich and knew it was my final year of a contract really kind of made me, and it probably sounds a little bit, it shouldn't have came to this, but because I was in my last year, I had to give it everything I had because it may have been my last shot. And that's what I'm saying. At the time at Sunderland, did I really understand the standards and the dedication and the mentality I needed towards my game at the time? Probably not. Did I wish that I did know it back then? Yes, of course, because I may have, gained a few more years. But some people's penny dropped later than others or earlier than others, and mine was probably going to Ipswich.
So for you, the fact that you were in the last year of your contract, you were like, I've got to make the most of this now.
Yeah, and I really kind of knuckled down to make myself work there. Listen, like I said, another challenge for me. It didn't work, but I was starting to establish myself and kind of realize my game, what I was good at, what I wasn't good at. I just felt like I needed that little bit of a lucky break. And one came from me after Ipswich.
So you how long were you at Ipswich for? A couple of years?
Just 1 year. Just 1 year, yeah. Roy got sacked. Roy brought me there, got sacked. Probably about 3-4 months left of the season, something like that. So maybe February, March time, Paul Jewell came in. And he kind of saw the season out, really. And I got offered another 6 months there or a chance to go to Plymouth on trial. And I went for, probably people think I was maybe a bit bonkers to go down to League Two, but I decided to take the 2 years and trial. That was kind of there waiting for me, and first team football over the 6 months at Ipswich, because Ipswich is a better standard. But I thought, let's go for it.
Was that you backing yourself, or was there any longer term?
Backing myself in one way, yes. It was the only other option I had, Ipswich or Plymouth, nothing else. Probably a little bit of security that if the trial went well, I got told that there was going to be a 2-year contract there for me in first team football. It's what I always wanted. Me dropping down to League One, I thought at the time, it's going to be a long way back, but if it's my only way back, then let's go for it. 6 months at Ipswich, is probably a 3-month contract, really, because they would take, halfway through that contract, they're going to make a decision on you whether you like it or not. So yeah, backing myself with a case of unknown, with a case of, let's go for it, let's give it
Were
everything.
you always thinking Premier League at this point?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. Me being me, my mindset, I really was, slightly confident and with a big belief that if I got given an opportunity which was in front of me, I would take it and bounce forward. I was kind of 21 at the time, so I knew, listen, it's sink or swim time. You aren't going to get too many more opportunities to get to where I wanted to go. Yes, you can have a League Two career. There's nothing wrong with it. Yes, you can have a League One career. Many players don't get to do that. But me being an ambitious lad, wanted to get back to the top.
I think there's a lot of ambitious lads, though, Conor.
Yeah.
And certainly the I love to work with young players and give them access. There's a lot of ambitious lads. So what's the difference? Because you're in an industry of ambitious lads.
Well, yeah, there's ambitious, and then there's, are you really really ambitious? You know what I mean? I would have sacrificed anything at the time. I probably didn't have a day off for 3 years, probably. Plymouth being in the corner of England, there was no kind of big cities around to drive to. It was really isolation time. Really, football club is the only thing in Plymouth. Lived 15 minutes away from the ground and the training ground. And I remember every Wednesday I never took off. I was in every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, played Saturday or Sunday or whatever. Recovered Sunday. Recovery is just as important as a game or as a training.
What were you working on your days off then, when you were supposed to be off?
Anything really. I dragged the coaching a lot of the Wednesdays. Not scared to do it. Dragged the fitness. Dragged the what are they? Fitness instructors or the gym instructor that we had at the time. Dragged him in a lot of my days off on a Wednesday. With kind of alternative, do gym another Wednesday, or outside with the coach another Wednesday. I probably knew at the time I wasn't the strongest and I wasn't the quickest, so that was me kind of shying away from that part of my game. I was working on it, of course, but I was really working on my technical side of my game: passing, short, long, shooting. Get yourself a goal, get yourself an assist that would make you stand out from others, set pieces, and really kind of pinpointing my strengths and making into, you would say, a super strength, or as best as they can be.
Yeah. And I like, because that's before we met, but obviously you like you said, you were ambitious. You had that hunger. And so we've met, I think it was the January. So what was it really that because we were already working with that, somebody who likes to work, doesn't like days off. And Barnsley at the time were third bottom.
Yeah, they'd just been relegated from the Championship at the time when I signed. I suppose, listen, you at the time you come across an obsessed mid-20 lad that whatever came in his way, he was ready to meet it head on. And that's probably been, I've come across many challenges in my time, like I said, going from Sunderland, Ipswich, Plymouth, away from home, down the leagues, to come back up the leagues. And one of my strengths, I would say, and probably a lot of other people's weaknesses, is whatever comes in my way, I'm ready to hit it head on, brush it off, and keep moving forward, kind of thing. And that's been a big plus for me, really, in my career.
Right. And so that obsession, because it was, because I remember
you'd saying to me, I think in the meetings, "Whoa, slow down."
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's I think Greg was saying there's nothing wrong, and you saying there's nothing wrong, and then it was I just want a big move. I just want a big move. And I'm like, whoa, you know. And I remember thinking, and then saying to you, you just said there was nothing wrong. There's not. I just want a big move. And
I was like a Duracell bunny, wasn't I?
yeah, you were. And I said, well, if you want a big move, like your mind is like way down there. And I remember saying, where's Barnsley at the minute? And you're like third from the bottom of League One.
Yeah.
So they've gone from Championship to League One. And I'm thinking, Conor, you want a
You're
big
probably
move.
thinking, who is this guy? He's third bottom in League One and he wants a big move.
No, not just that League One. You're like at the bottom of League One and you're talking about a big move. And I remember crystal clear, I remember, let's take care of today.
Yeah.
Take care of today. Today becomes tomorrow. What can I do today to be the best player I can be? And that series of days, eventually that big move or that move is going to come, but it'll only come based on how you take care of today. And I remember you just going, it was like this weight had been lifted off your shoulders.
I know, it's funny though, looking back on it. Yeah, I remember that conversation and me just going off in a big one. And like, I remember you going, slow down a bit. This is not me. But I think it was a bit of both. Obviously, never having that mental coach in my corner, let's say. And as you probably know, over the years you've known me, that hugely ambitious lad that never stops thinking about the game and is obsessed with the game and his craft, and you know, would do anything to get to where I want to be, you know. So I think there was probably a lot of things in that conversation that probably spilt out and you learned about me.
Yeah. And so tell us about, like, so at that moment in time, you've gone, you know, like Barnsley. I mean, it you know, for me, just seeing the impact of you on others, how did that work? You know, your impact on teammates and the people around you when you started to calm down. And
yeah, probably, you know, I knew there was a leader in me. I definitely did. I became captain at Plymouth around 21, 22. So I was like, you know, the standards I set myself every single day, taking no days off, showing, kind of leading by example from the training point of view, always wanting to improve. I knew there was a leader in me. And then I probably got to League One and probably thought, I'm getting places here, and probably kind of got in that big scramble, you know, let's fast track this quick. And then as time went on, became captain of Barnsley, and me probably figuring out I need to drag others here with me. I can't do it on my own, and became that team leader. That probably was the best thing I've figured out to do, because, you know, we all became a team, and a team is much stronger than any individual. And we went from strength to strength and ultimately got promoted. So that's probably my quickest way of getting fast tracked to the championship, you know?
Yeah, I think you're I think you're kind of dampening that down, because I remember us talking about this, you going to another level also impacts other people.
Yeah. Well, listen, I suppose you know me as well. I don't like giving myself too much praise.
I know, but
it's an uncomfortable subject for me, isn't it? But
I think the context of what can people in general, you know, learn from this, or what can a young player, or doesn't matter. I think in the context of is when you do this, then the people around you do that as well. And you know, it's fact. You went from third bottom of League One, and you just went boom, 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 to you. Johnson's Paints was the first one, wasn't it?
First trophy, and then we went on to get promoted. I think I probably brought back, going back to the start of the conversation, I brought that maybe a Jordan Henderson standard obsession to Barnsley, Kevin Ball, my youth team coach, standards to Barnsley. You know, instead of me wanting to big move, it was more of I brought them standards to that football club and kind of changed my game, you know, which is a much more powerful thing, influencing others around you, you know. And I think I would like to think if people are at Barnsley, you know, you spoke to them, I'd like to think that, you know, my standards around the place would be mentioned and how I went about my business, and that extra training never stopped. That obsession about, you know, doing extra as one of the first in, last out every single day. It's still something I do now. One of the first in, last out. One of the first on a training pitch, last off it. You know, it's just them standards really.
And kind of you know, what's interesting about that, because a very good friend of mine is a Barnsley fan, and you know, you remember at the time, and so when he found out that we were working together, and he was over the moon, and it was a great period in the club's history. A great period in the club's history. So you know, when I was I enjoyed that period working with you, but indirectly seeing the impact you were having on other people. You know, so I'm just kind of rewinding, because I remember, I think one of the standout moments for me was in the push for the playoffs. And I remember going to Oakwell, which I've been to, not for games, you know, talking to the lads there, but and I was late. Getting to the game, and it was against Leeds.
Right.
I know. I remember walking into the players' lounge, and seeing the box, and you had a free kick. You literally had just put it down.
Right.
Leeds, and it was just before half time. I think it was your last game for Barnsley.
It was the last game against Leeds, last game.
Last game. Yeah. So I only tell true stories. Yeah. and I remember you putting it down, and it was your last game and I went to the bloke. I went, "This is going in this."
Do you know what? That was my last game. Yeah, and one thing I was delighted with as well. A lot of people at the time, you know, I was getting that. We go back to a big move, let's say, to Villa, and I could have easily not played that game. And I think people forget about the promotions and the Johnson Payne Trophy and all the rest of the stuff. I think people, which I'm delighted with now, hold me in high regard because I just wanted to play, and I could have easily shrunk away from that game. But me being me, it's another opportunity for myself to score on, you know, to score or to put in a good performance or to lead by example. That standards, you know. So it was brilliant way to end that Barnsley journey and close that chapter.
No, I'll never forget that. And you know, and I think you talk a lot about you know, the people like Jordan Henderson and Kevin Doyle, and I think also it's interesting if we touch on the role of agents in your career. How, as a young player, you know, what were the things that you liked and didn't like about having to have an agent?
It's a good question. It's a part of the game that I don't like, if I'm being honest. I think they can be really influential and bad for youngsters. Promise the world, and the youngster may think that, you know, my agent's going to give it to me, but they don't realize the sacrifice that themselves have to put in first and foremost. I've never been big on it in terms of wanting the best one or wanting the one in the biggest bracket or the one with the best players or anything like that. It was a friend of a friend for my first agent, like Greg, you talk about, introduced me to, and I was like, yeah, let's go for it, kind of thing. Over time, yes, listen, we changed paths or whatever, and I've got my own one now. Not the biggest, doesn't have too many clients. And I get on really well with him as a friend more than anything, and I trust him, which is the most important thing for me, trust.
Right.
with an agent. You know, I think a lot of agents, like I said, promise people the world, promise players the world, and people go for that promise rather than kind of finding their own route, really.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it's a necessary part of all sports, isn't it? It's a necessary part of all sports. There's no getting away with it. But I think
no getting away from it. There isn't, no.
But I think there's one thing that, you know, we often talked about was having those honest conversations, didn't we?
Yeah.
And you've had to have those in different places, haven't you? What was it that you learned about that context of the difference between a chat and a conversation? How did that
help? To be fair, I use that quote and that phrase a lot with people. Through yourself, obviously, a chat is basically, in a nutshell, you're beating around the bush. A conversation is you literally getting to the point. Let's have a real conversation and iron things out. So, it's listen, like I said, our journey together. I've learned about that, and you know, different conversations with different people over the course of my journey is only going to benefit yourself really in the long run. So there are things you just have to do.
But not many people have that tool, do they? That's the...
No. Listen, it's not easy for people. And listen, I still get nervous talking to managers or certain people, but it's definitely a tool that I've adapted and grown with over the years. I think as you get older, you become a bit more comfortable with it. Yeah. Some people naturally have it. You know, some people don't and grow with it. Some people don't like it at all. But it's definitely in your own best interest if you can have that open, honest conversation with people and get your point across the way you want to get it across.
Yeah. It's a skill it needs working at.
Sure.
Just like, you know, like you said, it's the neck up. You mentioned Jordan, and we'll go to Michael Jordan because you've been watching The Last Dance.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Obviously, I knew about Michael Jordan, of course, best basketball player of all time. Didn't know too much of his insight about his journey, and heard about this documentary that's obviously been out at the minute, and it's really, really fascinating me. Every Monday I'm waiting for the next 2 episodes. I'll be watching one now, only I'm doing you a favor. But no, listen, as an athlete, incredible the way he dragged people along. Probably something on a different scale he developed. You know, he probably realized dragging people along with him rather than being that individual is more powerful. And getting an insight to kind of an insight into his mentality and into his brain is really, really an interesting one, and I'd recommend anyone to watch it. Really.
Have you been talking about it at training?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I've been telling anyone I can to watch it really because I really, really feel strongly about it. It's a really, really good watch. Anyone who's got, you know, someone that they want to learn from, get an insight into someone's mentality at the elite level. I've told JT to watch it because he didn't know about it, and he's gonna. Yeah, he didn't know about it. So I've told him to watch it, and he's gonna get back to me on it. So yeah, it's a really, really powerful one. Really interesting.
I think there's one of the things that I was just talking to a coach, and I said many people will miss some of the lessons and the secrets in it because they'll just be watching it rather than studying it. And there's a big difference between watching and studying something. If you actually study it, you'll actually listen to what they say about him. They're actually giving you they're giving you the secrets.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what sport you play, whether it's basketball or football or whatever the sport is. If you listen to what Magic Johnson says about Jordan, when he says he's got great fundamentals and great footwork to go with his athletic ability.
Yeah.
That's why he was so good.
Yeah. He had challenges. He was young. He got taught, didn't he? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So he has challenges just as anyone else. You know, he got written off early. And listen, I'm sure many athletes do. And one of the best things in life is proving people wrong. I get a huge satisfaction from that. I think one thing in my career that I've been really good at is people's opinions maybe about me that I may agree with or don't agree with. I use them in the right way, and they add fuel to my fire in the right way. They don't disappoint me. They don't bring me down. They really motivate me, which is a really good thing that for me as an athlete, as a person. Um, you know, I don't want, look, that's not inviting people to criticize me all the time, but when people do it, I really use it in the right way to prove that person wrong, which is a good thing for me.
Yeah, for you it is, not for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone's different.
Because you might be just trying to prove them wrong, but then in getting there you go, well, see, I told you, and they're like, why are you doing it for me? That was one of the things that we often looked at, was you need to do it for you.
Yeah.
Use it as fuel, but it's doing it for you. And it's but you've been around some great people, and I remember asking, who do you look up to, who, and being Irish, I know one of your goals was to make the national team, wasn't it? That was a big goal, yes, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it was a big goal of mine, to get to that level. I think me getting to the championship was probably right. That Ireland goal is in reach now, because a lot of lads play in the championship and play for their national teams. And I was fortunate enough to get promoted to the championship. Was really hungry, and the mentality I had wanted to be a success in the championship. And I thought if I had success in the championship, then the Ireland thing might come along. And luckily enough for me, it did. And that was another goal I was able to tick off. And the next goal was to score for Ireland. Luckily enough for me, I've been able to tick that off. So I'm just always searching for them little goals that I always have,
But you were very anxious about it though, as well.
Yeah, definitely. At the time, Martin was the manager, hugely successful managerial career. Roy was assistant manager, coming across Roy again. There was John O'Shea was in the group, Robbie Keane, people maybe with that, huge, fantastic careers, fantastic international careers, coming across characters probably that I hadn't come across since probably Sunderland. And I was really only coming across them because I was cleaning their boots, or I was, in around their dressing room, not because I was playing and training with them, because I was in the youth team then. So to kind of bring myself to train and to play with them, big characters and big names was a really new thing for me. And there was a lot of nervousness and anxiousness heading into that camp.
Yeah, I think it was partly you getting there as well, because it was a goal.
Yeah.
But it was are they watching? Am I going to get seen? Am I going to, when's the first cap going to come? And and just reflecting on it, was they're watching you. You just don't know they're watching it. They don't have to be in the stands.
Yeah, do you know what? I look back at the Barnsley time now, and that was a thing. And I probably haven't told many people this, that when I was performing well for Barnsley, there was a couple of occasions where the manager or the assistant manager might go, "Oh, Martin O'Neill's in the crowd today," and I probably have, and probably noticing a pattern. I probably had my worst games when it came to games. And eventually after 2 or 3 times, I told the manager, "Don't tell me if he's here.
Yep.
I don't want to know," because it really played in my mind that he was in the crowd. I was probably trying too hard, trying to play these passes. Yeah, and I wasn't playing my normal game. So eventually I told people, "Do not tell me if Martin's in the crowd, or Roy, or whoever it may be." And then I'd have a really good game, and afterwards the manager would go, "He was in the crowd today," and I'd be buzzing.
Yeah.
So that's something I've had to learn as the levels move up, bigger crowds, more people having opinions on you, more people watching you, so that's something that I've had to learn, that the more levels I've had to go up.
Yeah, and I think I think that's, and I've got a picture here of you with Roy, and and we talked about that is, you having access to one of the best players in Premiership history, one of the best midfielders in Europe in his day, and what do you recall of our conversation about access? Because that was I think that was an important.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, I've been hugely fortunate in the levels I've played at, going from League Two all the way up. I've been hugely fortunate to meet two people that were probably the best ever, Roy and JT. I've been really, really fortunate. You could probably throw Jordan in there, but at the time he was in the youth team, so he hasn't developed, at the time as much as what he has now. Whereas Roy and JT had been through their journeys, at the time when I've come across them.
Yep.
So that access is a brave thing to do. I've probably become more comfortable to access JT because I've played with him, and he's my coach now for 2-3 years. So that I've been more comfortable to access that and peck his brain more. But it's an important thing to be able to do that, and have that bravery to access. And if you really want to, improve your game, or if you really want to get to the next level, using all the access you can have, every little helps. Every little bit of detail helps.
The Roy one, even though you were going to camp, it was actually before that.
Yeah.
So if I jog your memory,
I don't think I've been called up to Ireland yet, have I?
No, you hadn't.
No.
It was the day before the Johnson's Paint final.
Yeah, he got in touch with me. Yeah. He got in touch with me, and that kind of made me think.
And I asked you, had you replied back, and you're like, no, I don't. What should I say?
Yeah. Because listen, he was my manager at Sunderland and Ipswich, and he was a childhood hero of mine. So it was a big thing, So when he got in touch with me before the final, it was an amazing thing for him to do. And it was probably the first time I didn't really know how to handle it. Listen, the older you get, the better you become at them things again. You learn on the trade, you learn as you go along. But if you can get access, and if you're lucky enough, like I've been fortunate to have access to these top guys, top players, the little bits of advice people like Roy and JT can give you are priceless, really.
Yeah.
Roy always says the best players in the world are the best trainers every day. Every single day are the best standards. They train the best. They're one of the last off the training pitch. And they drag people along with them as well.
Yeah. And that's the kind of standard that, you hear it from him, you've heard it from, Jordan.
There's no coincidence. All the top players we're talking about are saying the same thing. It's no coincidence, JT, so fortunate to have played with. Listen, fortunate to have him as a colleague.
That fortune.
Yeah, but I'm so lucky to have played with JT. If he came in as a coach first, originally, it would have been great. But to have a year of actually see him play and how he went about his business was.
I remember you saying that was one of the things that you were looking forward to, was to see how he goes about it. And you said, doesn't matter, even in training, he's calling people out, he's demanding this of everybody.
And do you know what was really good? I think because he was coming to the end of his career, he was massive on his recovery. He was massive on his gym work, on his massage table. He'd be there for hours. So that was really interesting to see his recovery side of the game. But his speeches were really good as well. He's really good with his words. He's really like that leader that I'm leading by example. His talks to players, his talks in groups are really, really something that I'm fortunate enough to have come across so many of them, because they're really powerful as well. Really good with words.
Yeah. And that's, if anybody's wanting to be a coach, or, I would say if you're going to move people, you have to be good with words. And, like you said, it's great that you've been around them. I think more so than anything, though, for me, just also seeing you grow, not just in your career, in your game, but also off the football pitch as well. And the Conor that I knew then, now the Conor dad,
Yeah.
and I won't say husband yet. I was actually thinking that. Yeah, I was thinking, is Liv there in the background?
Yeah, she's in there watching telly. Yeah, she's in there. Yeah.
So I won't put you under any pressure on that one. But
no, listen.
How's that been? Because I remember your first I think date with Liv.
You're bringing up the soft side of me now.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I met Liv when probably a year or two into the Barnsley time, so not far off. When I met you, it was probably a little bit later than when I met you. Yeah, and it's been an amazing journey with herself as well. She's been a part of it. Got engaged, got a daughter, and yeah, really fortunate to have her with me. Yeah, she's an amazing woman.
Yeah, and you got to move from Sheffield.
Yeah, I got her to move from Sheffield to Birmingham eventually after a lot of convincing. Got her down eventually, and she's loved it now as well. So I keep saying, "I told you so. I told you like it." But, yeah, no, she's been brilliant. So supportive in my journey, and yeah, lucky, like I said, lucky to have someone to bounce off and to lean on.
Yeah, no, it's amazing journey, and long may it continue.
Yeah.
You got to the promised land. That's
that's been amazing. Still never satisfied. Always wanting to achieve more. Always looking for more. Hungry for more. So yeah, listen, delighted to be able to have said, listen.
What's been the biggest challenge for you at that level?
Good question. Probably the quality of players. I'd like to touch the ball a few more times than I have. No, so, listen, the quality
in terms of, like, you knew coming through to get there, the ball's going to be at your feet a lot more just because of,
listen, yeah, it's been an amazing, it's been amazing to be able to say I've played it there and take it all in and see how people work and go about their business and the coverage that the league gets. It just in the whole, it's just a massive league organisation around the world. The difference between the Championship and the Premier League, it's just cranked up a few notches even more in every aspect, so it's a different ball game, but it's an amazing one to be a part of. Really, really amazing. It's something that I've always wanted to do, play there and score there. Like I said, them goal orientated bits and pieces that I have that I'm able to tick off, and now I'm hoping to stay here for a little bit longer because I've worked that hard to get here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the next goal is to just get you guys back into training and
yeah
stay there really.
And see how we're back in a little bit individual or whatever, so we'll see how the next week's pan out. But listen, all you can do is be ready until you get that call saying, listen, we're back officially or whatever it may be. We've had 8-9 weeks to keep fit, and I've used this time as a selfish opportunity to maybe work on things that I haven't been able to do in the season, so you have to take these chances maybe to make something that you haven't been able to work on a little bit stronger than before.
Just finally, before we wrap up, Conor, is what would you say to a young player? And yeah, I'll say young player because I always want to give to the young players. So what would you say to the young player who is kind of embarking on that journey from where you were? They're at Sunderland, they're at Plymouth. I've been to both those clubs talking to the youngsters, Ipswich as well.
Yeah.
So I've spoke to a lot of Conor Hourihanes. Yeah? What would you say to them from your own experience? What would you say to them in terms of developing themselves?
I'll probably say first and foremost, it's not going to be an easy journey. There's going to be many challenges along the way. You have to be tough enough and mentally strong enough to be able to shrug them challenges aside. There's going to be a lot of people say that you may be good enough, you mightn't be good enough, but them opinions don't matter. It's down to what you want to do. You have to make huge sacrifices. You have to be really obsessed with your craft, and you know, train while other people aren't training. You know, put in as many hours as you can to be successful, to get to where you want to be. One thing that I know that will give me that satisfaction when I finish, I have made the absolute utmost of myself in my journey and in my career. So if you're able to do that as well by the end of the time you finish, then you'll have done just fine. But if you can say to yourself, I couldn't have done any more, then that's good enough for me, and it should be good enough for you.
Yeah, no, that's good words. And what about those who only look at this when things are going wrong?
Yeah, listen, for me, if I was given advice on the mental side of the game, I would say if you are playing well now, you might be scoring, 20 goals, or you might be keeping 20 clean sheets. Agents might be calling you saying you've got a move, or I'm going to get you a move. I would say first and foremost, when things are going well, use this mental side of the game, because it will only take you from strength to strength. It doesn't mean that you're showing any sign of weakness. It doesn't mean that you're struggling. But if you can maintain that consistency level of where you're at now, if you're playing at a high level or consistently playing well, you'll only move forward a lot quicker.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. And I'm sure, you know, your journey is one that I think people can learn from, youngsters can learn from. You know, I think there's a level of it's patience, but being persistent with the patience.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, definitely. Persistent. I've definitely been that. Patience, I've learned that as time has gone on. You know, and that's coming through, like working on this mental side of the game, and learning as I go on, the older I get.
Yeah. You've got several years to go yet, so yeah.
I'm trying to look after my body. Them days off are important now because I'm 29. So I enjoy them days off now, but the hard work is still there. Like I said, that's a given for me. That's one of my main standards every day.
Yeah, that's good. Conor, really appreciate your time.
No problem.
It's been fun reflecting on that journey with you. You know, so appreciate it.
No problem. Pleasure.